we are familiar with the fact that Trump has invoked an act that allows for him to basically declare these migrant gangs that have been terrorizing the United States of America as an invasion, right? A long, dusty act that has now been invoked. And so basically what Trump and the Trump administration is doing is saying that, hey guys, we need to, by any means necessary, deploy all of the tools, all of the tactics, all of the resources that we have to make sure that we protect American citizens, even though the people that came before us neglected to do so. And so he invoked this act, and using this act, he was also deporting illegal gangs. Now, again, these are not just regular taxpaying citizens. These are not people that even came over here illegally and is still doing the right thing or trying to do the right thing or whatever, trying to finesse their way inside of the United States of America. These are the people that were taking over the apartment buildings over there in Aurora in Colorado. These are the people that were kicking police officers over in New York. These are the gang members that had ties over to Chicago. These are the people that have been murdering people like Lake and Riley. These are the worst of the worst, possibly have been released from the prisons to come over here in the United States of America like Trump has been talking about for a long time. And the first thing that they did, the first thing that liberals did, the first thing that the ACLU did was file a lawsuit to then have a judge invoke putting a restraining order for Trump to not deport these illegal migrants, even though they were already in the air. So the judge was asking the Trump administration to do what? Turn the plane around. Don't land them over in El Salvador. Don't deport these people. They belong here in the United States of America. They have rights too. So this is a summary of what was happening, and I want to get it from both sides. I'm going to get it from both Fox News, CNN, and then we're going to come to a conclusion.
Back here at home, there were 261 illegal MS-13 gang members, some MS-13 ringleaders. Donald Trump is calling them terrorists because many of them don't have America's best interest in mind, and they're here illegally. So he puts them on planes. He sends them to El Salvador. And in the middle of those flights, a judge says, no, you have to stop. You have to turn these planes around. And then Donald Trump says, well, they're not in American airspace anymore, so it's too little too late. The judge is now giving Donald Trump until noon today to file briefings and to answer these 4 questions. Do you want to read these questions?
Yeah, so he has a few questions. He says that he wants to know how many planes departed the United States at any point on Saturday carrying any people being deported solely on the basis of this proclamation. He also wants to know how many people in the category were on each plane, what foreign country or countries did these planes land in, and what time did these planes take off from the United States. And
what country are we living in now, y'all? I didn't even know that judges had this amount of power in which they can demand this type of information from the President of the United States of America. I am flabbergasted. How many planes departed the U.S. on Saturday carrying and the people being deported solely on the basis of this proclamation? So this new act that Trump has invoked. How many people in that category were on each plane? Now remember, I want you to remember that we're talking about illegal migrants that are basically terrorizing the United States of America. What foreign country or countries did these planes land in? And what time did these planes take off from the United States of America and from where? We need to start having the identity of these judges revealed ASAP so we can know exactly what is going on. Again, these people hate the United States of America and Trump more than they love themselves.
And from where?
Well, and here's the thing. This all came to a head on Saturday night, and it is because late Saturday, just before the flights took off, apparently the ACLU and another group sued the federal government, and they went before the judge, and they started talking about what to do. And
they did it, and here's the thing. They did it within 2 hours of Trump invoking this act. They were able to, fam. I had a buddy that got into a domestic dispute probably like 2 weeks ago. Had a buddy that got into a domestic dispute over 2 weeks ago. And my brother called me and he said, hey, man, did you hear about such and such and such and such? I said, what happened? He said, yeah, man, he wound up going to jail on Friday. He not going to be able to get out till Monday. You can't even get out of jail. You can't even see a judge to get bail. At least here in Michigan, you can't. You can't even see a judge to get bail. And within 48 hours of getting arrested on the weekend, they was in front of a judge within 2 hours. 2 hours. Man, you not telling me that the judges is not working in concerted effort and they have a bias against the Trump administration? Ain't no way in hell. We can't even get immigration judges. We can't get nothing passed through. We can't even speed up the process to get these immigration judges to work faster or nothing. And the ACLU was able to get in front of a judge. You can't get a warrant. You can't get a warrant to go and kick in somebody's door that's selling Fenty in 24 hours. They were in front of a judge with a restraining order to prevent Trump from being able to deport illegal migrants that are gang members across the United States of America to El Salvador within 2 hours. 2 hours.
The judge issued an order from the bench. It was an oral order. He said, okay, turn those planes around. And now the White House says, well, it wasn't until it didn't take effect essentially until the written order came out. So right now it's all about the timeline and stuff. Ultimately, what the judge wants to know is whether or not that original lawsuit where the ACLU filed against the federal government to keep 5 Venezuelans off the plane. He wants to know whether or not those people went on the plane. From what I've read, it sounds like they did not make the trip. And so that should satisfy him. And ultimately, the federal government has broad latitude when it comes to enforcing immigration and stuff like this. So it'll be interesting to see what happens today.
And remember who this judge is. He's an Obama-appointed judge who actually gave Kleinsmith. He was the guy who made up the whole FISA warrant, reversed what it actually meant, and allowed Carter Page to be surveilled illegally.
An Obama-appointed judge. It all makes sense now. Even in judges, politics say and play a role. Judges are supposed to be impartial. Judges are supposed to make sure that they insert verdicts and that they make rulings based off of law, not necessarily how they feel or whether or not you were appointed by Obama. This is a D.C. area Obama-appointed judge that's basically opposing Trump. Boy, you Democrats, you got everything in your arsenal. Okay, so now it makes sense how he was able to get in front of a judge within 2 hours. Let's get it from CNN's perspective, from the liberal perspective, to make sure that we're looking at it holistically and then we can draw a conclusion.
Tonight here in Washington, there is a tone of defiance coming from the White House as a federal judge is still waiting on answers from a Justice Department that doesn't seem eager to provide them following that testy court hearing today. Now, all of this started when President Trump invoked a rarely used wartime law called the Alien Enemies Act to deport hundreds of alleged members of a Venezuelan gang from the United States to El Salvador. Now, those deportation flights were carried out on Saturday night, despite a federal judge telling the administration to turn the planes around and return to the United States as these legal issues were sorted.
Imagine that. You over international waters and a judge. You get a phone call. You on a plane. Got the cargo plane. You're making sure you're deporting illegal migrants that's out here terrorizing people. Gang members, MS-13 and Tren de Aragua on their necks and on their tattoos. And they got more protection than you do in your own neighborhood. Imagine that. You on a cargo plane and you get the phone call. Hey, man, you over international waters. I don't know what your gas is looking like, but make sure you turn that plane around and bring it back inside of the United States of America. We don't care how much it costs. What? What? You can't get me to come back to the house if I left my wallet and I'm 15 minutes away. I leave out the driveway. I'll be at the stop sign about to turn right. 5 houses down from where I left out the driveway, I'll be thinking to myself, God, dog it, I left my phone. I don't be wanting to turn around when I leave out the driveway. I ain't even left my block yet. I'll be thinking to myself, do I really need that phone? Do I really need that phone? You telling them to turn the plane around over international waters? Dreading it. No, I got to go back and go get that phone. You know what, man? Ugh. Y'all know how it is. You know how it is. We the same people that have passed up 4 gas stations talking about, I know I can make it. I know I can make it. I know I can make it to my destination. Just winging it. 13 miles to E. Phew, I can make it. I know I can make it. Don't be wanting to turn around to go and get your license. You know what? I don't think I'm going to get stopped today anyway. I don't need my license. It's going to be all right. I don't plan on going nowhere where I can get in. I look old enough, right? I can get in. I shouldn't need my license.
Sorted out. Judge Boasberg was back in court with Justice Department attorneys tonight. And while no cameras were in the courtroom, the CNN team who was reports that it grew contentious as the administration attorneys repeatedly stonewalled a clearly perturbed judge, refusing to even answer basic questions from him, leading him at one point to place his hands on his hips and shake his head with his eyes closed. At one point, he summed up the Justice Department's reasoning as, quote, "We don't care, we'll do what we want." The Trump administration, on the other hand, is arguing it did not violate Judge Boasberg's order since it was initially an oral directive and thus, quote,
y'all know how it is. I
"non-enforceable."
see y'all.
In plain English, they're saying that he said it out loud, but he has to write it down before it's real. Now, the timeline of all of this is crucial, and we've charted it out here for you because it was 5 p.m. Eastern on Saturday afternoon. That is when the judge kicked off this initial hearing
Reading super
over
chat,
Trump's
Shirley. I
attempt to
see y'all.
use these wartime powers to deport these alleged members of the Venezuelan gang. Now, it was briefly adjourned 22 minutes later for the government to collect more information. In that time,
Raiders 1992. You know I like to interact with the chat. Any of y'all that's new here, make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm. The likes is a little slow. And the chat is my co-host. Raiders 1992 says, my uncle hate Trump. He acts like a child. Your uncle is hateful. Tell your uncle he erases. Tell your uncle he erases and stop being hateful. Tell your uncle I said what up, though. Your uncle was racist. I know your uncle was racist, ain't he?
2 removal flights took off en route to El Salvador, which had agreed to take in these Venezuelan migrants for about $6 million. But after 6:45 p.m., the judge verbally told the Justice Department to turn around any planes that were carrying people being deported under the Alien Enemies Act. And the verbal order came after 2 flights had taken off, but before they had landed, and before a 3rd flight had even taken off from the United States. Now, the written order from the judge came about 40 minutes after that. I've been working to chase down the details on this timeline, when the administration got this information, when they found out what the order was, and that included at today's press briefing where we sought answers on where they draw the line between a judge's verbal order and a written one. You keep talking about the judge's written order, which hit the docket Saturday night at about 7:26 p.m., but he issued a verbal order before that at about 6:45 and 6:48 p.m. based on the court hearing, a verbal order from the bench. Does the White House feel the need to comply with a verbal order from this judge?
Again, as I said, all of the planes subject to the written order of this judge departed U.S. soil, U.S. territory before the judge's written order.
But what about the verbal order, which of course carries the same legal weight as a written order, and said for the planes to turn around if they were
Well,
in the air?
there's actually questions about whether a verbal order carries the same weight as a legal order, as a written order, and our lawyers are determined to ask and answer those questions in court.
So essentially what we're having a conversation about is protecting people that are not supposed to be here inside of the United States of America. We're spending time, resources, American taxpayer dollars. We're spending judges' time when he could be doing something more productive. We're spending legal fees. It's costing the United States of America taxpayers. It's costing the ACLU. I don't know if y'all continue to donate to the ACLU. And we're wasting precious time. We don't spend time doing anything productive. None of these groups, none of this diversity, equity, and inclusion, none of these people do anything productive whatsoever. They spend all of their time and all of their resources on things that do not add value into American taxpayer dollars, pockets. They don't fix anything. The only thing that these people do is make it difficult, and I mean incredibly difficult, for us to do the right thing for the American people. Imagine that level of defense for the people that's actually in here illegally already, that already should have been deported, and a judge, an Obama-appointed judge, is making it difficult for the Trump administration and is spending his time trying to make sure that he answers 4 questions for migrants that's already illegally deported or already deported from being over here illegally. This is our justice system, y'all. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars. Make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. That is what's going on in this case.